Hi folks, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. So over the last few weeks, I've been using Claude Code in my home directory as an everything agent, basically, not just for software tasks inside a Git repo. And I wish I had come up with the idea, but apparently this was common practice inside Anthropic. And Tariq, who is, I think, doing DevRel at Anthropic, has this great X thread about how to set it up. I'll link this down in the description. So I basically just copied his setup, but I do have some differences. So the way this is set up, as you can see over here in my top level home directory, I have a Claude.md, and that's symlinked to a markdown file that is checked into a Git repo. I've also aliased all the other markdown file names because agents.md is used by Codex from OpenAI. Gemini.md, of course, is used by Gemini. So the setup works with most of the command line agents, not just Claude. But Claude is much better at it than the others. I think Codex with GPT-5 is now getting close. So let me walk you through what my markdown file looks like. A lot of these sections are taken from Tariq's setup that I showed in that Twitter thread. Just a little bit about me and what I'm trying to do. And then this part is important. I tell it about the important directories in my home directory. And there are more directories than just the ones listed here, but these are the ones I usually work in and the ones I really care about. So I have a screencasts folder, my dot files, of course, and then this one is important. This is the directory where all my Git repos live. This is where my Obsidian Vault lives. And so I'm describing my directory setup here. In this next section, I'm telling the agent how to structure its own working scratch space. So that's in a directory called agent living in my top level home directory. And again, these three subdirectories are taken from Tariq's setup. The really important one is this agent/memories. This is where it saves all the workflows that I wanted to perform. And that really is the important thing I want to do with it. This is the part that I added. So the way I use this agent is for a lot of simple shell tasks. I can just tell it to do something and it'll do that. But then I have a lot of tasks that are very specific to my setup. They follow multiple steps. For example, publishing a video on my YouTube channel or summarizing a YouTube video. And I have scripts for these things. However, I still have to type out the invocation of the script along with all its arguments, and I have to stage that invocation manually, which still takes a few minutes. And sometimes the output of one script goes into another script, and I have to look at it in the middle and things like that. But I'm trying to get Claude to do all that and then write it out in a workflow markdown file. Now, the very first time I do it, I have to hold its hands and it stumbles a little bit, and then I tell it how to do it right. But once it has done a workflow the way I want it to do it, I basically instruct it to look back and reflect on what worked and save it as a memory that it can refer to later. And that's what this task execution priority section is talking about. What it's saying is that when I give it a task, first check if there's some relevant workflow in your memories and use that. And if there isn't, then you can start making a new plan. This is the other side of it, which says that after completing any multi-step workflow, you should save it as a memory. Now, to be honest, this part isn't quite reliable. Very often I have to explicitly tell it to save a multi-step workflow after it has finished it. One nice thing about working on a Mac is that you can use AppleScript to automate a lot of things that have to do with the OS itself. So I give it that context. And then there's a bunch of miscellaneous general instructions like your general purpose agent, not limited to coding. And I don't want it to keep saying that commits were generated by Claude Code. I just wanted to use my regular attribution. So let me show you the kinds of workflows that it has saved for me. A bunch of stuff to do with audio processing. This README here is an index of all the workflows in this directory, and it usually will update this README index automatically when it adds a new workflow. So I have workflows for analyzing my screencasts, for setting wallpapers, but I think one interesting one is uploading a YouTube video to my channel. And this is a good demonstration of a multi-step workflow. So what I'm doing is giving it just a raw video, something that OBS records, and I'm telling it all the things it's going to need in addition to the raw video. To upload to my YouTube channel, it's going to need some credentials. I tell it where that is. I usually will generate chapter markers from the transcript of a video using one of the GPT models. So I tell it how to get the API key for that. And then these are the steps. Now note, I didn't write these out explicitly. I asked it to do this with some very high level direction and pointers to my existing tools to do this. And then it went and tried to do it, and I corrected it a few times. This script that it's running over here, this is a script that I wrote to edit and upload to my channel, but it's doing a bunch of other things, like coming up with a title and a description and chapter markers and so on. And then this is interesting because the script usually will crash if you don't give it a thumbnail. And so it figured out on its own that that's what is usually happening, and that's the reason it's crashing. And this is a way to take out a frame from the video and use it as a thumbnail. I thought that was an interesting piece of reasoning that it performed. Things like this, creating a description text file which has chapter markers, these are things I would have had to do manually. And then, like I said, often I'd have to figure out what all the inputs to these scripts are manually. So this entire flow can basically be kicked off with just a natural language command. Here's another one. I have a tool that will take a YouTube video and summarize it, but with Claude Code, I can give natural language commands to do things like that. So let's end with an example. I have this YouTube video currently playing, and I want to say something like summarize the YouTube video playing currently. So you can see how as its first step over here, it's looking up the memories directory. It found a video summarization workflow. And now here's the thing where it's wiring up two different things I would have had to do manually. I would have had to copy the URL of the video from Chrome, but it figures out that it needs to get the URL of the currently playing YouTube video. And the way it does that is by using AppleScript to introspect on the Chrome tab and extract a YouTube video URL. And here you can see it failed because it doesn't have a Gemini key. And there you go. It figured out how to get the Gemini key from my password manager. And now it's invoking my tool after having set the Gemini key. Okay, it finished, and here is the summary of that video. Yes, it is Ben, the CTO of Box. This is a summary of that video. And that's an example of how I can now invoke all these multi-step workflows where the invocation is just natural language, because that's what I said, summarize the YouTube video playing currently. And then the workflows themselves are also mostly natural language. And this has been working surprisingly well. My collection of workflows has been growing over time, and I'm trying to use it more and more as an everything agent to do all the tasks that I previously would have manually done on a shell command line. I'd encourage everyone to give it a try. I think you'd be surprised at how much it can do. All right, thanks.